Hey recap lovers, welcome back. Today's movie will be a 2017 American historical drama film titled Mudbound. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The movie begins with Jamie McAllen preparing his father's tomb before rain and nightfall arrive. He pauses as Henry, his older brother, takes over. They are both working on the grave when the storm comes, and Jamie becomes caught. Despite Jamie's sobbing fears that Henry would have abandoned him down there, Henry saves him. The following morning, Henry's wife Laura can be overheard complaining about how the farm reminds her of muck as she and their two girls walk behind the casket. Getting the coffin into the grave is a point of contention and struggle for Henry and James. The Jacksons, a black family, pass by with their wagon. Laura tries to talk Henry out of it, but he still requests their assistance. The voiceover then cuts to Laura in 1939, telling the story of how she met Henry. Although she can't claim she was ultimately in love with him, she appreciated him and regarded him as a savior. Laura and Henry are waiting to pick up Jamie when he arrives home from school on the train. He acknowledges that he is trying to impress Laura by appearing more innocent, shaving, and talking about plays. Despite having recently toasted to Laura and Henry being married and having children, he continues to regale her with tales when they are out at a lavish dinner and even dances with her. As they dance, Laura acknowledges that she might have been in love with Jamie in her voiceover. Henry reveals that his brother affects girls in that way. Although she confesses that she appreciates domestic life, which soon will include raising their girls, and she feels that she exists for such a cause, Laura says that Henry's proposal was not what she expected. Nevertheless, she does look delighted. As FDR addresses Pearl Harbor, the scene changes from Henry sobbing while listening to the radio to the Jackson family bidding goodbye to one of their sons, Ronsel, who is speaking on the radio about heading off to fight in the war. His mother, Florence, talks about him getting into a fight over the video. Hap, Ronsel's father, pauses his labor in the fields to speak about how his family lived off the property throughout their lives but passed away without ever owning any of it. Yet, he seems hell-bent on getting a land deed for his property. After engaging in an intimate activity one evening, Henry casually informs Laura that they will be relocating to a farm in Mississippi in 2 weeks. She is astonished when he attempts to tell her how much she and the daughters will like it because she doesn't remember him telling her that having a farm was his goal. The family relocates from their beautiful suburban area to a new, not too bad-looking house with the aid of Henry's father, Pappy, and his pickup truck. However, someone already resides there, and the individual who robbed Henry of his money has left town. After the homeowner shuts the door in their faces, Pappy starts to yell about Henry being a fool. Pappy argues that they should not live on the farm but are forced. On the journey to the abandoned farmhouse, the scenery swiftly changes to include a decrepit bridge and gravel roads. The Atwoods, a destitute white family who consistently appears coated in filth, also reside in the neighborhood. Henry interrupts the Jackson family's dinner by asking for assistance in unloading the truck before it becomes dark. The only way to guarantee they can unload before it gets dark is for Henry and Pappy to dispute Hap going in the truck with them. Except for Pappy, who sulks in the corner and later attempts to convince Laura to give up her piano so he may stay in the house, Henry and Laura are trying to set up the situation. Pappy sleeps in the lean-to as Henry and Laura argue about it, with Laura standing her ground. Both Jamie and Ronsel can be seen participating in the battle. Jamie, an army pilot, assures his co-pilot that he will soon return home to celebrate his daughter's birthday after missing it. In a letter to his family from Belgium, Ronsel laments that they are constantly moving. Laura observes from the porch back at the farm as Henry fires Carl Atwood for an error he made with a horse. Henry refuses Carl's request to stay because he has children and another is on the way. Hap kills the equine. Later, Vera Atwood and her daughter Alma visit the house to plead for their jobs to be restored, but Laura informs them Henry makes the decisions, not them. In his subsequent letter, Ronsel discusses how European white people regard black people differently than they do at home. He appears at her home with flowers, indicating that he has a white girlfriend. Henry can't get into town to call for a doctor since it is too hard to travel through the rain because the McAllen girls are sick with whooping cough. He goes to the Jacksons and interrupts Hap while reading Ronsel's letter to ask Florence, a midwife, for assistance. As she cares for the McAllen girls and knows that anything going wrong will be her fault, Florence says in her voiceover that she can relate to her mother's experience as a nurse to white children. The girls do, however, get better with Florence's help. Hap tries to talk Florence out of working full-time for the McAllen family, but Florence agrees. Jamie and Roncel, both in distress, are shown in contrast to farm scenes. Jamie's co-pilot is shot through the window and dies, while Jamie panics but survives. Roncel is in a tank when his friend is killed by a bullet. In another scene, Hap falls from a roof, breaking his leg. For weeks later, Henry returns to check on Hap, who expects to return soon despite the doctor's recommendation that he take 6 weeks. Henry, on the other hand, Henry is unconcerned and wants him back on the field for the sake of timing and because of a rainstorm that caused the delay. Despite his reservations, Hap agrees to rent a mule from Henry for the job because it means they'll have to pay money. After Henry has left, he tries to get out of bed on his own but falls and cries out in pain. Jamie is shown on his bunk, drinking and distraught over the death of his co-pilot. He continues to drink throughout the film. When Henry informs Laura that Florence will be unable to return to work for them for a few weeks, Laura complains that Henry failed to inform her and that he should simply lend Hap a mule. He refuses, telling her they must earn their own money and look after themselves. Laura takes the initiative to utilize the cash Henry had secured in a box to send a doctor to treat Hap. However, Henry is still upset with Laura and turns down her nighttime advances in bed. Although she didn't always love her intercourse with Henry, Laura claims in the voiceover that it made her feel like a wife. When the conflict is over, Jamie and Roncel celebrate with a different group of women. However, Roncel and his girlfriend are upset since they understand that their relationship is ending. Since Saturday is the only day Laura feels clean, she claims that it is her favorite day. Unfortunately, she and her girls have developed a continuous state of filth, like the Atwoods. Pappy passes Laura without noticing she is taking a bath. Finally, Jamie arrives home, and Pappy is amused by some jokes and happy to see Henry and the daughters. Still, Laura seems surprised when Jamie hugs her. Jamie, Pappy, and Henry discuss the conflict later that evening over cocktails. Pappy questions Jamie about how many soldiers he murdered after hearing that he had received high awards. Jamie dismisses Pappy's question and claims he was just lucky. By reminding Jamie that he at least looked the individuals he killed in the eye, Pappy denigrates him. To convince Jamie that Pappy is proud of him, Henry reprimands Pappy as he turns and leaves. Henry is informed by Jamie that he did, in fact, kill 4 or 5 Germans. On his journey home, Roncel must sit in the bus area reserved for black passengers. A young black child bows to him while he is dressed in uniform, but Roncel's voiceover emphasizes that nothing has changed at home. He enters the shop in the town and starts a conversation with the proprietor as Laura introduces herself. Roncel attempted to leave through the front door when he was supposed to use the rear entrance. However, he was ridiculed by Pappy, who was present along with Henry and another man. When he becomes agitated, Roncel tries to depart peacefully but tells them how black soldiers were deployed on the front lines and killed numerous Germans and Japanese. Laura stops Henry from getting involved further, and Roncel exits through the back door. When Roncel returns home after walking, it is already dark. Before saying grace, his father asked for Roncel's safety. Roncel's tearful reunion with his father. Henry appears and tells Hap, Florence, and Roncel about the event in the store as they are relaxing on the porch outside. Once Roncel admits it's accurate, Hap demands an apology from him. Hap reminds Roncel that white people will always prevail after Henry has left. In a flashback, Jamie leaves the store after purchasing his own supplies when the sound of a car backfiring knocks him to the ground. The white people present are just staring at him. After their formal introductions, Jamie offers him a lift home in the truck. Roncel assists him as he is passing by. When they are safely outside town, Jamie persuades Roncel to board the truck with him and come up from the rear. As they discuss their wartime experiences, Jamie admits that he dislikes Pappy and believes Roncel is uncooperative. At the same time, Jamie tries to be cordial by offering him a drink. They raise a glass to honor the friends they lost during the conflict. When Hap sees Jamie driving Roncel home in his truck while working on his reading at home, he becomes concerned that something else might be wrong. Still, Jamie promises to give him rides more frequently. Likewise, Henry appears genuinely delighted about Laura's new pregnancy. While the rest of the family is at a religious session in the evening, Ronsel and Florence share a sweet moment. She tries to preserve the sweets he gives her for the other kids, but he forces her to eat them. Jamie's excessive drinking is also causing issues at home. Laura is startled out of sleep in the middle of the night by the sound of him grumbling on the porch. Eventually, he allows her to calm him down, but as soon as he notices Henry at the door, he takes off in the automobile. When Vera shows up at their house, heavily pregnant and holding a knife, Laura comments that Henry is always absent when anything horrible occurs. Since she plans to kill Carl for abusing their girls, she makes an effort to insist that Laura drive her into town. Laura explains that because Henry confiscated her keys, she cannot drive. Vera refuses to join her despite her best efforts to persuade her. Laura subsequently finds out that Vera had been covered in blood after stabbing Carl 17 times, and Florence saw this. Laura, having pregnancy issues, has one of her daughters give birth to Florence, but she still miscarries the child. Florence tries to console her by sharing that she also lost a baby, Samuel. Jamie and Ronsel are still hanging out and exchanging combat tales. In a voiceover, Florence explains that she is worried about Ronsel because he appears tense, except when Jamie picks him up so they can hang out. Hap and Florence talk about how they believe Ronsel should move to make him happier while they are alone on the porch late at night. He enjoys a pleasant moment with Florence dancing on the balcony as they hum a tune together. While enjoying a drink, Ronsel and Jamie discuss how they miss some aspects of the battle. Ronsel, in particular, feels this way because back in Mississippi, where he is merely a black man, black males are still seen as liberators and given preferential treatment. Jamie finds that Ronsel had a girlfriend in Europe when he asks him about the ladies he's dated, leading Jamie to believe that Ronsel was with white women abroad. However, Ronsel is quiet about her. Ronsel becomes upset when holding his girlfriend's crucifix in bed at night. Jamie experiences another flashback while driving drunk and alone back home. The sheriff and Henry find him the following morning with his car almost in the pond the following day. The following day, Ronsel sleeps late and receives criticism from Hap for staying in bed while his siblings are at work. Finally, he hurries off to read a letter from Germany that his sister hands him while beaming. When Jamie spills milk and laughs about it, Jamie and Henry argue. Jamie responds by saying that Henry can't see that his farm is failing or that Laura is doing poorly. At the same time, Henry calls him out for intoxication. Henry explains that he will be gone for a few days and that he anticipates finding Jamie gone. Ronsel moves slowly through the muck and rain when a pickup truck begins pursuing him. It turns out to be Jamie, who is amused by his prank on Ronsel. Both of them are reluctant to discuss their problems. Still, when Jamie presses Ronsel to name the worst thing he's ever done, he confesses that it was breaking up with his girlfriend and shows him a photo of her holding Franz, a child who is unmistakably Ronsel's child. Jamie is informed by Rosnell that his girlfriend wants him to return to Germany. The two enjoy themselves while driving around, drinking, and singing along to the radio. It is unclear if Ronsel will be able to run away in time when Jamie observes Pappy driving with another man. Jamie tells Ronsel that he is going after dropping him off. The two express their friendship, and Jamie wishes for Ronsel to be able to see his son again. After saying their goodbyes, Ronsel returns home to discover that just his mother is there because the rest of the family is at church. The girls are at home with Laura and Pappy. As Jamie enters, Pappy recognizes his inebriation and asks who else was in the truck with him. Jamie immediately acknowledges it was Ronsel, and Pappy demands the keys while yelling at Laura about how he can tell her likes Jamie. Pappy discovers the note on the truck's front seat as he steps inside. Ronsel discovers that he no longer has it when he gets home. He ignores Florence's attempts to stop him from going until his father returns. Inconsolably searching for the photo in the rain at night, Ronsel is attacked by white males and trucks. When Pappy awakens Jamie in his bed, he is accompanied by KKK members. Ronsel is bound, beaten, and has a noose around his neck when they bring him to a barn filled with other white males. When the men see the photo of Ronsel's girlfriend and his son, Jamie argues with his father and tries to defend Ronsel from the other men. Still, they ignore him as they force Ronsel to acknowledge that he is the child's father. Pappy is going to be awakened by Laura. Jamie informs Laura that he killed Pappy while seated on a chair, still covered in blood but now conscious. Jamie roused him up to tell Pappy that he wanted to look him in the eye before smothering him with a pillow. Ronsel's voiceover reveals that in his dreams, he is trapped in a tank and is unable to scream because a burlap sack is covering his head. Jamie states that he hoped Pappy's untimely death brought Ronsel's family peace and for Ronsel to find happiness. Yet, he did not find serenity when going around in a good suit in a metropolis, still seeming strange. However, the Jackson family seems to be doing well. They are at home, dressed in nicer clothing, and Hap appears content. The movie ends with Ronsel's voiceover as he discusses how he should wrap up his inspiring journey despite being mute. He says he is going this time not for war but for love, and that love is how he decides to end his story as he travels over Europe, visiting his girlfriend and now older son. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.